Hello, my friends, and welcome to the brightest place in the universe. A few days ago, the Stormgate development team on their YouTube channel released a video about technology and art in the Stormgate. So it's a little bit of an update video, 6 minutes and 7 seconds long. And I thought that I would just give a little reaction and we could, I don't know, just have a little bit of a discussion on things. Maybe I could provide a little bit more context. I'm not entirely sure. They actually sent me a link to this video about like 5 days before it came out, and I was so busy with other stuff that I completely forgot to watch it. So apologize to them. No, you don't have to apologize. I apologize to them. It's so I figured we could give it a go. I'm interested in seeing their development, and I feel like I would like to get other people's perspective on stuff too, and maybe I can be a little bit useful for helping. Oh no, understand things. It says technology, and that's really broad. I know technology. I have a phone. Let's give this. Oh, I pressed spacebar, but I was on the wrong screen. I'm good with technology. Oh no, this is going bad already. I'm reacting. Their logo looks so good. Like this whole thing, I just love. The snow looks wonderful. Carbot made the Frost Giant in Frost Giant. It looks amazing.
It's been about 6 months since we announced Stormgate, and we want to provide an update on our development.
I'm going to try to let him get through full sentences before I pause, but I wanted to say, I think they made the right choice in kind of going radio silence after their announcement. Like, being completely upfront and honest, I don't think that their announcement went very well, and I think just putting all that stuff behind them and starting to build up from the ground once again, getting goodwill and merit from the community based off of, stuff like this, assuming it goes better, is probably the right strategy. If they just kept hammering it over and over as time went on, it would have been worse. I'm glad they took a break.
We're actually building our own game engine, and no, that doesn't mean that we're not using Unreal Engine 5. Unreal Engine 5 is powering all of the graphics and sound and input, provides the pathways for all of the art that we put into the game. But the gameplay itself is driven by a piece of technology that we're developing called Snowplay.
Okay, I can talk a little bit about this technical stuff. So engines, I'm going to do like a really brief TLDR. Effectively, the way that engines work is they are a huge set of pre-existing tools in order to make it easier to build a game. I think that's the easiest way to describe an engine. So you don't have to, invent the entire universe before you start building your video game. Unreal 5, I believe that it fully came out of beta and was released earlier this year. That it is a very fresh engine, a very new engine. And if I were to make an assumption, the reason that they're going on to Snowplay, they might talk about this in a sec, is that Unreal does not have the technology implemented that they need, which makes sense because Unreal, which is made by Epic Games, focuses on a lot of the very popular archetypes, right? So they're going to have a lot of tools for shooters. They're going to have a lot of tools for puzzle platformers, all that kind of stuff. RTS, things that are catered and required for RTS might not exist there, so they probably need to build something on top of it to make everything, to get things working in the way that they want.
Snowplay is a custom-developed engine for real-time strategy. It is a set of logic that is being built exclusively by our team here at Frost Giant, designed to handle the high unit counts and the low latency networking that are necessary to facilitate a really great real-time strategy game.
So I think that is the easy and non-technical way of saying that Unreal 5 does not support deterministic lockstepping. They might go into this once again, so I will wait a little bit, but deterministic lockstepping is effectively the way that there's a bunch of different ways you can have computers talk with each other. And deterministic lockstepping is a really good one for RTS because a lot of the other ones send all the data about all the units all the time. And when you're playing, let's say you have 1,000 Zerglings, that is too much data for the computers. They have a hard time dealing with it. So they have to use other systems. And though it might not be supported, so they're coming up with Snowplay in order to implement that sort of thing.
You're going to hear today from James Anhalt, our chief architect, who is leading the development of Snowplay. And you're also going to hear from our art director, Jesse Brophy, who is leading the design for each of the factions or races that are going to be featured in our game.
Snowplay is the deterministic.
Sorry, we shift people. I kind of hope that they just call it factions. I've always thought it was weird that we call it races. Like, Zerg's not a race, it's a collection of species, that are all together, for example. And I don't know what the demon people are going to be, but are they just a race? It feels weird and very specific and niche, and it's like an outdated term. I think factions is better, and I kind of hope they just go with it.
The game engine.
Deterministic called it.
And that we built to provide us with fast, smooth, responsive RTS gameplay. Snowplay is all about making Stormgate more fun. The fun in the game comes from how responsive the game is and how it just feels to play it. Unreal Engine 5 provides a client-server networking model, but we require a networking model that supports a large number of units. And Snowplay gives us this deterministic engine where we can just simulate the game based on the player inputs. Snowplay allows us to simulate Stormgate at 60 Hz.
Oh, okay. Or I guess we're done with that. So this is I don't think this is the greatest infographic trying to explain what is going on to a lay viewer. I can talk a little bit about this. It's very important for all modern RTS. Effectively, the way that deterministic lockstepping works is the game engine is perfectly, consistently logical always. If you do a thing, it will, at the exact same time, it will always have the exact same results. That is incredibly important because what you can do is then if you have two people playing, all you can do is tell the other person what I did and when I did it. And then the game has the ability to implement or simulate what is going on the other player's or on the other player's screen as well. On the their game can, and effectively you have two simultaneous, exactly the same simulations happening for two different people, only with the list of the buttons that are being pressed and when those buttons are being pressed. That is, if you've noticed in StarCraft 2, replays are really, really small. They're only a couple kilobytes apiece, and the reason is because the replay list, or the replay, is literally basically a text file that just has a list of inputs and when they happened. And as a result, they can recreate the entire game from scratch. And that is very powerful. If you remember when League of Legends originally came out with their replay system, every replay was multiple gigabytes in size. And the reason is they were using this unit state model. So what was happening is pretty rapidly, the server would just be like, okay, for every minion, tell me all the stats. Tell me like every status condition you have, what your HP is, what your location is, what your direction is, blah, 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 blah. And then do that for all the heroes, do that for all the everything. And then we send that all to the to everybody's computers who then simulate it. And then they send back the commands that they're doing, which then gets re-simulated by the server, blah, 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 blah. It works for MOBAs. It works for shooters. However, if it had to send, if there were 10 times as many minions and players in a MOBA game, it would be just too much data to actually go through and process, which is why we need something like Snowplay. I think that this is something they probably didn't want to do. And I think it's something they just realized eventually that they had to do. It would have been really nice if they could make the same system that works for MOBAs, the same system that works for shooters, work for RTS. But they feel awful to play online. They really, really do. Let's see if they talk about team games, though, because that is actually a big concern I have about it, and I'll come back and talk about it later if they don't.
Player inputs. Snowplay allows us to simulate Stormgate at 60 Hz for smooth, responsive gameplay feel. It'll be the most responsive RTS game I've ever worked on, and I've worked on a few great ones.
That's very vague.
Rollback allows us to reduce the lag a player feels playing the game over the internet. Rollback works by allowing us to simulate the game even in the absence of player input. And if we receive input later, we can roll back to that time that the input happened and then simulate forward really quickly to catch back up. Snowplay allows us to
I think that's the deterministic part. And no, deterministic just means that it always goes forward. I don't know if that is how other RTSs work. This is beyond my understanding as a thing, and I'm not going to pretend. But that seems very useful to stop things from being as probably laggy and smoother, hopefully.
To mass spectate games where the viewer can rewind, have instant replays, and then fast forward back to where they were originally. Because Snowplay is deterministic, we can mass spectate a live game by broadcasting just the player's actions to the viewers and re-simulate the game on their computers.
That makes perfect sense. If your opponent can get the keys that you're pressing and simulate you as an opponent, then there's no reason the third person couldn't do it as well. I mean, that's how it works for observers. So just turning that into just receiving the information and not having to be in the lobby is really, really nice, and will probably make stuff like observer lag never be an issue again. If you've played StarCraft, observer lag is awful. You get two people playing against each other in a 1v1 in a tournament. And then because you're in a tournament, there's 8 other observers. And if any of them have lag because they're in that game with them, it causes lag for everybody. But this type of system would allow you to just spectate without actually being there. So if your internet goes down or starts lagging, it doesn't impact the game. That would be so nice. I really like that. Additionally, it means you could just stream without having to stream, if that makes sense, through the client, which could be a really cool way to learn.
Snowplay enables designers to iterate quickly by compiling all the game logic into WebAssembly so that they can iterate while never leaving the game.
Yeah, I was about to say.
This also unlocks the potential for modders to be able to iterate quickly and reach the same level of polish.
So if you've ever worked with the StarCraft editor, it has to be opened and closed constantly. Every time you want to test something, you have to relaunch the entire game. The idea of not having to do that and just really quickly implement things to test is going to make modding so much better. That's awesome. I'm really happy about that. I didn't expect to hear anything about modding here, but that's making me real excited. All these changes seem very smart and well-informed so far.
The art team's been...
All right, this is the art team, so I'm going to talk about one final thing that is... Okay, I think I have 2 things that have concerned me. The first is that deterministic lockstepping, because you have to get that input of what the other person's actions is, lag is difficult. Lag affects everybody. You've felt this if you play StarCraft. You get in a 3v3 game, and one person is laggy, and because the game is struggling to simulate everything with commands that are potentially getting there late and that sort of thing, it makes the entire experience very choppy. You compare that to MOBAs, for example, where if one person is laggy, that person is laggy, and the rest of people are playing fine. Now, Stormgate wants to have 3v3 be an important part of their gameplay. How are they going to make sure that this deterministic lockstepping Snowplay thing is going to make that experience better than StarCraft 2? Because it can be really, really bad in StarCraft 2. And I think it's one of the reasons that team games didn't take off as much. Because you have one person with bad internet in the entire game, and your experience is awful. I hope they have a solution to that. Otherwise, 3v3 is probably not going to be popular. And that would be a darn shame, because I think that team games in RTS have a very, very important place. What was the other thing I was going to talk about? Oh, no. Well, oh, no, I'm buying time to try that. We're going to look at Jesse Brophy, the art director, and I'll try to remember the other thing.
Focused on a lot of things in the last 5 months. We wanted to get a unified visual.
Okay, so the other thing is reconnecting to a disconnected game. Every other game in the universe right now that is a modern game allows you to disconnect and get back in. Because of the way deterministic lockstepping works, because it is just a list of things that have happened, you have to simulate from the beginning to the current point to reconnect. If you've ever played Heroes of the Storm, that is what is going on. And it's why you can't just click a button to reconnect like you can in other MOBAs, where the server is sending all the information. Because in that one, the server just sends you all the information, your computer loads it up, and you're ready to go. If you're trying... is an RTS going to be releasing in 2023 or 2024 without the ability to reconnect? Is deterministic lockstepping going to stop that? Because that has been a big concern of mine, and I really hope that they have the ability to reconnect, especially if there's team games once again. Because we all know how awful it is. A guy's computer crashes, he's back in the client 30 seconds later, and he can't get in, and it's a 2v3 and the game's over. These things are really important, and I really, really hope they're taking them seriously and are going to discuss them in the future, because RTS needs this.
For both the Resistance and the Infernal Host.
Oh god, I'm pausing again. The Resistance. This is another look into things. So we get, every once in a while, Frost Giant just like sends me a thing, and they're like, hey, a couple months ago they were like, hey, we have a bunch of potential lists, or a bunch of potential names for the human faction. I guess the Resistance is what they picked. That was none of the options that they gave me. And I did say basically all the options they gave weren't great, so I think the Resistance is fine. What was the other one called? Let me...
In the last 5 months, we wanted to get a unified visual vision for both the Resistance and the Infernal Host.
Infernal Host.
We're also doing a lot of work on our core technology inside of Unreal, as well as a great deal of environment work for our terrain and our cliff systems. We're calling the human faction the Resistance, and they're humanity's last line of defense against the infernal invaders. They're a scrappy group. They've preserved knowledge about advanced robotics and scientific know-how, and this gives us a lot of options for mech designs, as well as creative exploration of future technologies. Recently, the concept team took about 6 weeks to focus on the visual development of the Resistance. We didn't have design briefs, and none of these are specifically going to go into game. It's just us exploring visually what the faction's going to look like. This first image is by Leah, one of our concept artists, and it's just her exploring stuff that she kind of wanted to look into visually. She got inspiration from Buzz Lightyear and F-14 Tomcats, and this is the result of that.
I'm gonna be completely honest, this does not get me going. When I think, like, from what I understand about Stormgate, is effectively in the middle of an apocalypse. The demons are coming through the portal to heck, and they are destroying all that remains of humanity, and the Resistance is what is able to fight back. This looks too polished. Now, it could be, it doesn't look like scrappy enough, if that makes sense. It feels like this is the military that they would march out before everything happens. And if that's what this is, and then maybe the entire story starts with the opening and things get scrappier, that would be really cool. But if the faction permanently looks like this, it doesn't feel like a faction that is being overwhelmed and the entire world is going extinct to demons. That's just me. It just feels a bit too nice.
This next image is one created by Timmy, one of our concept artists as well, and it's his take on what a Resistance flying unit could look like. This final unit is called the Gigamech, created by John Ryder. We don't know if this mech will ever make it into the game, but artistically...
This looks Overwatchy. Like, it looks super, super Overwatchy. I don't know if John Ryder worked on Overwatch, but it very much so looks like that style of visual design. And I don't think that's bad, but Overwatch is, they've already had their apocalypse and they are recovering from it type era of things. Not mid-apocalyptic.
We wanted to explore what it could look like if there was an end game unit, something that was so massive when it came onto the battlefield that one side was going to have to win over the other. The Infernal Host is a violent, warmongering society of alien creatures. They travel through Stormgates, from planet to planet, conquering any life forms that they come across. Anything strong enough to fight back is assimilated into their ranks. Their main purpose is for resources, primarily what we would call life force or anima. Earth has a great deal of anima, which makes it a high-value target to the Infernals.
For some reason, anima just makes me think it's like a 90s JRPG. I'm sure it'll be fine, but it definitely feels like something you'd play on the Super Nintendo. You got to get your anima, dude.
To them, energy equals power. The human faction uses advanced robotics. The Infernals use magic.
I really like this. I talked about this in my initial Stormgate review video. Fantasy versus sci-fi, there's no reason it can't happen, and it's very, very rare. I think it is an unexplored archetype. It has a lot of potential, because you know what? I don't remember who said the quote, but any sufficiently advanced technology looks like magic, kind of thing. It, like, high tech versus magic is actually an equal matchup that makes sense. It actually, like, magic doesn't make sense in a fantasy universe because magic is so much more overpowered than knights and swords and armor that are supposed to be able to compete. If they can do sci-fi versus fantasy well, I'm really excited for it.
Just like the Resistance visual development that we did, we also did the same thing for the Infernals. We took 6 weeks to really focus on what the designs are going to be so that we had a unified language for the team. This image is what we're calling the mystery.
It's Mephisto. Okay, so we got Overwatch versus Diablo. I don't think he looks bad. I actually think I like the fact that his, like, claw things are made out of mist. He does look kind of naked on the right side. He's like in his bathrobe. He's mad at the kids. He got done with his shower and he just wants to go to sleep. That's what he looks like on the right hand side. He, like, came out of the shower and he sees that they're drawing on the walls with crayon. He's like, I'm so disappointed in you. But from the front, he looks good.
We loved it the second Leah drew it. It, again, was all part of our exploration to go, how do we want to design the Infernals? This image is by TJ, again, one of our concept artists, and he really wanted to explore the structures of the Infernals and what the shape language was and what type of materials we could use to explore them.
That looks very Diablo 2 or Oblivion-esque, and I like, oh!
This final image by Tom, one of our concept artists, is what we're calling the Worker right now. We wanted to keep the Infernals very dark and gritty, but there's some areas where we want to have some charm and levity, and we thought this would be a great place to do it.
I love him. Can we buy plushies of him? I love him so much. I want him to be... He's holding this little rock. What a guy. Oh my gosh. This is amazing. What a wonderful design. He's so cute. He's like, he looks kind of dumb. He's like little Demon Charmander.
Again, we don't know if any of these units will make it into the game.
What? Okay, if you don't let the Worker into the game, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm probably gonna be very upset. I don't care what happens to Stormgate as long as you keep him safe and sell a plushie of him, please.
We were just exploring visually as a team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we've been working on. I know everybody's eager for some gameplay footage, and we will share some gameplay footage next year before closed testing starts. But in the meantime, I want to wish you a happy holiday on behalf of everyone here on the Frost Giant development team.
Thanks. Oh. I'm sorry. The like holiday music, and then Stormgate. A little bit of whiplash right there. All right, guys, that was me spending 23 minutes analyzing a 6-minute video. Oh man, I don't know if that makes me a good or a bad React YouTuber. This is like the first time that I've ever really reacted to anything. The only other time I did it was people in the community made a video of my blindfolded run, and then, like, with the highlights, and they asked me to react to it, and it was a lot of fun. But this is the first time I've ever really, like, sat down and done something like this for, you know, content I didn't make. I really want to make sure that I'm adding something if I do stuff like this, and making sure that I'm not just, like, rehashing someone else's content. So I would appreciate feedback on it. I would appreciate feedback on what you guys think about Stormgate, and if I got anything wrong. I tried to be very TLDR with the technology stuff because it's complicated. Please give me a little bit of a break on that one, as long as I wasn't objectively wrong on anything, which I don't think I was. But yeah, I thought this was pretty interesting, and these types of things make me feel a lot more confident about Stormgate as a game than, like, cinematic trailer reviews. these make me excited for the future because it just seems like they're making a whole host of correct decisions, though it does bring me more questions like the ones I asked about reconnection and 3v3 lag and all that kind of stuff. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed spending 25 minutes on a 6-minute video. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.